Hey there, Jason Satterlund here. Last time in our vlog, we talked a little bit about the Movi motion control camera rig. We got so much great information when we went down to picture this here in Portland, Oregon, that we decided to make a standalone video about the essential setup guide for the Movi. So join me with Will over at Picture This here in Portland, and he's going to show you how to put this entire thing together.
So unfortunately, the stock sliding balance plate that's sent with the Movi, the holes don't line up with most camera systems. If you're using a base plate to run your follow focus or map box off of, most base plates can accept this kind of awkward spacing. But if you're going directly into the bottom of the camera, such as the C300, they don't line up, meaning you only get one point of contact for a screw. We'll start by sliding the C300 on. And the whole reason that I'd like to leave this side handle on is because we're not going to be using the viewfinder, the LCD and audio module with the C300, which has a lot of our controls for adjusting our exposure. I'm going to leave this side handle on so that I can control many of my menu settings rather than popping it off and on every time we need to make an exposure setting. So you can see we haven't begun quite balancing the C300 yet, but the longer the camera body is, the further out the front of the lens or the back of the camera body, further from the center of gravity they're going to be. So any awkward pieces like this viewfinder, I'm just going to pop off so we don't run into hitting the back of the gimbal system while the Movi's trying to compensate for its tilt. And for balancing purposes, we're going to build up our lens, our battery, any camera media, all before we really start fine-tuning the C300 on the Movi. Even putting in a compact flash card, your media, once you're ready to start rolling, is going to throw your weight off. So better to dial everything in. Your camera system is going to be complete, how it's going to be flown, instead of adding a few more pieces on, having to rebalance it. The stock LCD viewfinder audio module is just way too awkward to be able to build up with the Movi M10. So we're just going to lose that and just send an SDI signal straight into our DP7 to give our operator something to compose their shot with. So something that's extremely useful when using any sort of video cables with any camera that you're using with the Movi M10, we've got several hyper thin SDI BNC cables. Same goes for HDMI. They're super flexible and essentially they don't add a bunch of tension to the camera. As the camera's moving left and right, these are so lightweight, so flexible that they're not going to pull on the camera and they're not going to affect your Movi's balance. So a really important procedure when prepping the Movi M10 is to balance it in the correct steps. Say you were to begin by throwing your camera on here, adjusting it left and right. As you started to add more accessories, you might find that the camera's running into the side of the gimbal. To compensate for that, you want to get your center of gravity centered right in the middle of the gimbal. To do so, you're going to loosen these three screws back here, from which you can adjust the gimbal left and right, ultimately changing where your center of gravity is. Although once you change this, that's going to throw all of your other balance off. So it's always best to start with adjusting your left and right gimbal adjustment first. This was previously set up with a Canon 5E, and what's happening is it's kind of drifting left and right. So to compensate that, it's a little bit nose heavy right now, so to compensate for that, we're going to loosen this here and pull the whole gimbal system back. So all this balancing is being done with the Movi turned completely off. The more that we can get the center of gravity perfectly dialed in and balanced before we even begin using the Movi, the less that the motors are going to have to work to compensate for any movement. Ultimately, the smoother your shot's going to be. So as we were balancing our Movi, we stripped all the accessories off the top here, currently being just this monitor that's on here. As you mount these accessories on, that can affect where the center of gravity of these top handlebars is. And as you can see with this monitor on this side, the tendency is for the Movi to kind of lean forward like this, which when you're making this adjustment here to see whether the camera's nose heavy or back end heavy, that's greatly going to affect your ability to tell where that balance should be. So we removed all of these accessories to balance that in, get all that dialed in before we start building up our accessories on top. So now we're going to fire up the Movi. So they run off of these LiPo batteries. These are branded FreeFly, the company that manufactures the Movi. However, these are just, you could walk into any RC remote control hobby shop and find these batteries readily available. Something that we've discovered that can happen from time to time is that the Movi can become unpaired with this particular transmitter, this controller. So there is a pretty simple process that takes about 5 minutes to get the two bound together again. But that's something you should always be conscious of if you're trying to troubleshoot any issues with your Movi. If you're not able to communicate with the Movi through your transmitter, it's very likely that the two have become unbound. Now we're all ready to begin and get our Movi fired up. We'll start by turning on the remote controller, the transmitter, as well as the Movi. And what we're looking for as the Movi boots up, first we're looking that this orange light right here on the side is lit up. That means that our transmitter and the Movi are properly bound and communicating with another. Oftentimes when you boot up both your remote controller and the Movi, you'll see these flashing lights. It's going through the startup process to begin being operational. We're seeing these blinking lights. That's not a good thing. It just means that we have to try once more. Turn off everything, turn it back on again. 3 solid green LEDs is exactly what we're looking for. So we're ready to begin by throwing our Movi into the majestic mode, which is the solar operator mode. And you'll see this thing kind of spring to life once I throw this into majestic. We're just going to start off by picking it up, see how it feels, and see what sort of adjustments we're going to need to make. So it feels pretty good right now. You can tell that it was last set up with a lighter camera. It's a little bit loose and a little bit slow to react to whether I'm panning or tilting. But one other adjustment that we're going to make is we're going to raise up our camera package on this gimbal system. Right now we can see from this axis right here, it's really bottom heavy. Meaning that this motor right here has to work particularly hard in order to correct any sort of tilting. So to make that easier, we're going to raise our camera up and bring the center of gravity up closer to this axis of this tilt motor. Now if we go too far, the tendency is going to be for the Movi to flip upside down, which we definitely don't want. We want it to get about even, but still a little bit bottom heavy. So currently, the FreeFly configurator software is not available for Apple iOS devices. My understanding is that it's pending approval in the Apple Store. So currently, your only way to use the FreeFly configurator in the field is to either have a Mac laptop or desktop or a PC that you can use the software with. However, with an Android tablet, that is approved to use the FreeFly configurator software as of now. So we're able to use a tablet much easier to make in the field adjustments rather than having to go inside and find a computer to make adjustments with your Movi. So the first thing we're gonna do, I can see that I've paired over Bluetooth my Movi with this particular tablet. Before we even begin, I'm going to start by restoring the factory calibrations. It's just a good base level to begin balancing your Movi with. Pick the Movi up and see how it feels. So that's a little better. It's still a little bit slow on doing its pans. We can go to the FreeFly configurator software. We're gonna begin by going to our majestic configuration. In my pan smoothing, I'm gonna start just by turning that down by 5 and see what that gives us. Yeah, that's feeling a lot better. When you're setting your Movi up to work in majestic mode, you're primarily going to be digging into the menus of the FreeFly configurator under the majestic configuration. Mainly your pan smoothing, your pan window, your tilt smoothing, your tilt window. You can also adjust your pan stiffness, roll stiffness, and tilt stiffness. You want to stay away from messing around with remote control configuration and remote operator configuration if you're just going to be in the majestic mode. There's a few settings you can make under general that'll help dictate what your max and minimum tilt angles are for the Movi. What's the tolerance of when it will no longer allow you to tilt down or to tilt up. So depending on the particular shot, if you're trying to aim the Movi straight down, do like an overhead shot, that's where you'd sort of dig around in those settings. Currently, to work with our Movi M10, we've got the map remote mode set to 6. So that 6 is specifically to operate with the Movi M10. If this value is off by 1, this remote control is going to be totally useless for us. Basically, don't touch it. When you're operating this Movi, it can be very much like operating a Steadicam in that you have to preemptively begin your pans left and right and give the Movi some time to smoothly go into that pan. You have to almost presciently frame up your image, what it's going to be a few seconds before you, just to give a much smoother image. If there's someone walking right frame, you don't just want to pan the Movi right and you'll get this very hideous looking pan, whereas if you can preemptively start your move, you'll get a much smoother shot.
So you got a zoom on here now, 16 to 35.
16 to 35.
How long of a lens, like how far out here can we get?
It depends on the camera. This is probably one of the few zoom lenses I would actually put on the Movi M10. Primes, whether it's compact primes, red pro primes are a little on the heavy side, but compact primes have been really popular, as well as the Canon Cinema primes. Those are still a relatively lightweight prime lens.
Don't think you can just pick this up and run with it. That's the people that have had a problem. They're just ones that just go, I'm going to try it and go, and it just ends up being a disaster.
Exactly. You really have to put the prep time in as far as balancing your camera goes, getting all of that dialed in as far as the settings with the FreeFly configurator. You really have to get that dialed in on your prep day and not on the day of your shoot. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Bottom line is, the Movi is a really amazing system, but I wouldn't call it a replacement to a Steadicam. It still takes a lot of skill to run. I think it's more of a companion to a Steadicam. They're both required very skilled operators, and I think there are things that a Steadicam operator can do that would just outdo what a Movi can do. But the Movi can go places where a Steadicam can't. For example, we use it inside of a car. Here's the thing, if you're having trouble with your Movi rig and you're having problems trying to set it up, make sure you give the folks over at Movi a call, freeflysystems.com. They're very helpful. They want people to be using their equipment. Their tech support is fantastic. They're all over it. Also make sure you check out pixthis.com for picture this, Pixthis.com. And make sure you subscribe to Big Puddle Films. Here's some other videos if you want to check it out. I'm Jason Satterlund, and thanks for watching.